Next, we're going to switch gears and dive into a topic that can get a little controversial, comparing and contrasting MPC and HSMs for providing effective key management and security. We have some of the world's most qualified industry experts representing perspectives for both types of products. So it should be a really interesting discussion. The panel will be moderated by Jacob Pachter, another highly renowned MPC cryptographer and the Chief Technology Officer for CPUR. Well prior to co-founding CPUR in 2013, Jacob worked as the head of security at Alexandria Institute and later co-founded Partisia. Back in 2008, Jacob was part of the core team, along with Ivan Damgard and others, to develop the world's first production implementation of MPC. Jacob, please provide some further perspective on the panel topic and introduce your esteemed panelists.
Thanks, Frank. Welcome to this panel on using multi-party computation and hardware security module for protecting cryptocurrency wallets. We have a very strong panel here today, and I would like to introduce the different panelists and let them briefly present themselves. First, we have Yehuda Lindell, who's now working with Coinbase.
So thank you, Jacob. I'm a cryptographer, MPC researcher from the late 90s, just showing my age. Was the CEO and co-founder of Unbound Security. We were recently acquired by Coinbase, and I'm now a cryptographer at Coinbase.
Thank you. And then we have from France, we have Charles Chilomet from Ledger. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you, Jacob. So Charles Guillemet, I'm CTO at Ledger. Ledger is the world's most secure platform for Web3 and digital assets. Ledger secures almost 20% of the world crypto. I joined Ledger in 2017, and I created the Ledger security department called the Dungeon. You probably have heard about them. My background is around cryptography and security, mostly hardware security. I've been working in this area for 15 years. Designing and breaking a critical security solution. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Charles. And finally, we have David Grigorian from Defense. David?
Hello, Chief Tech Officer of Defense. I have about 8 years of experience in different fintechs and startups and about 12 years of experience in banking. So my latest company was Airvolt, which was acquired by Genesis in 2020, where I was effectively a software architect. And before that, I went through multiple jobs at the Deutsche Bank.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so the purpose of this panel, as mentioned before, is to discuss the kind of two different paradigms for protecting private keys in cryptocurrency wallets, namely multi-party computation or MPC and hardware security model or HSMs. Perhaps first of all, Yehuda, can tell us a bit about briefly what is multi-party computation and why is it so attractive to use for cryptocurrency wallets, or why has it gained so much attraction?
Sure, thank you. I'll be happy to start with that, but I just want to make one comment on what you said. I actually don't view it as two different paradigms, and I think that MPC can coexist very, very nicely by having some of the MPC parties actually running inside secure hardware. That, of course, would not be a standard out-of-the-box HSM, but it's not necessarily a choice of either or. But in general, when we think about MPC, and I won't go into what MPC is because there were discussions about that in the beginning of this conference. But when we think about MPC, we're talking about distributed trust. That's what it's all about, and removing any single point of failure. And you can do many, many things once you have that. MPC enables you to run any signing algorithm and have distributed policies. I don't want to go into all of that, but I do want to say that the fundamental difference between at least the classic way people view hardware security and MPC is this notion of distributed trust. And there is no perfect software. It's not possible to build. There's no perfect device. It's not possible to build a perfect device. And therefore, relying on any single piece of hardware, that, in my mind at least, that is the weak link when it comes to talking about things like HSMs. They are indeed a single point of failure if your entire key is in there. And we know that they have been broken in the past. Hardware security in many banks is thought of as the, that is the ultimate security. But in reality, software is running on that hardware, and that software can have bugs. Another thing that I do just want to add is that what is an HSM? HSM, we can think about something that's being built specifically for the cryptocurrency market, which has built inside a policy engine and other things to ensure preventing key misuse. That's a very different world from taking a classic off-the-shelf SafeNet or Thales or Gemalto now HSM and running that where that falls very, very short of what we need in this market. And in general, it's the wrong model because you're protecting a server from physical attacks. It's software attacks you need to worry about in the server world. If you're talking about an HSM being like a smart card or a device that I walk around with, I can disconnect from the network, connect to the network, but it's in my hands myself. That, of course, makes much more sense. But as I said in the beginning, I think that these coexist together, and that's, I hope what we'll get to it in the conclusion by the end of this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Uda. Okay, Charles, perhaps you can tell us a bit about HSMs. I know they've been around for a long time, and as Yehuda mentioned, they have a long background in the financial industry. What are your thoughts on the role of HSMs in cryptocurrency wallets going forward?
Yeah, sure. HSM stands for Hardware Security Module. So this technology is used for critical security application for more than 20 years, I think. And the general principles for HSM consist in segregating the security part of your application and put it in a secure environment, namely the keys and the cryptography, and you want to segregate this from the application itself. The idea is to drastically reduce the attack surface. For instance, when you think about your wallet, your software wallet can run on your regular mobile phone directly on this kind of device. But when it comes to your key, the idea is to put your key in a secure environment, completely disconnected from your smartphone. And for instance, we build this kind of hardware wallets, which are especially designed for security. The keys are inside, the cryptography is inside, and the keys never leave this enclave. So from my perspective, this is the best way to implement a clear segregation from the application to put it in a hardened, dedicated hardware. Some trials have been done to create enclaves with general purpose CPU. Namely, there is SGX, which is quite known, but it's dramatically failed because this is not dedicated hardware. HSM technology is widely used in banking, telecom, defense, and these industries are using this for more than 20 years, maybe 30. They have organized a complete security certification scheme, allowing them to constantly raise the bar for security. HSM and secure element are, from my perspective, the most proven security technology. But as you said, if you use HSM just to put your keys inside and to create a random signature oracle, you don't really solve the security problem for cryptocurrency custody. Cryptocurrency custody is much more complex than this. You need to have your keys inside the enclave, the signature cryptography inside it. You also need like a secure display and so on. So this is much more complex than a simple PKCS11 interface that you can find in a regular HSM. And I agree with Yehuda. HSM are also, there can be mistakes inside. Our internal security research team did some research recently on HSM, and they found critical vulnerability. This is probably what you are referring to. The idea for us is to make sure that the hardware we are using is as secure as possible, and then to implement our cryptography and related inside this enclave, security enclave.
Okay, thank you, Charles. David, perhaps you can tell us a bit about how you view this as a consumer. You're building a crypto custody solution. What are your viewpoints on multi-party computation versus HSMs?
Of course, yes, of course. So effectively, we're looking at this to mitigate three major risks in our industry. One of them is around the fact that people can just lose their keys. And this is a source of essentially billions of assets lost at this point. And the second one is about if you have a personal HSM on you and you're effectively an individual customer, so you're effectively putting yourself in harm's way, right? So it's the same as if you have a safe or if you have an art piece. So we're trying to essentially reduce people's exposure through use of policies and through MPC being able to split enough shares between different parties so that we can effectively find if a given person is under attack, and maybe we can essentially block a payment, and more importantly, we can make it known to the wider public so that attackers know that it's actually pointless to attack them. And the last risk is effectively through those means we can then go back to insurers and effectively tell them we have new means, we have new policies, we think we can reduce the premiums, and more importantly, we can increase the coverage. So, and we believe that MPC is actually the best technology. We can do this similarly through other means, but an MPC and through ability to refresh keys, we can essentially mitigate all three major risks.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Maybe
yes, go ahead.
If I could, yeah. So I wanted to continue on David's line and maybe throw the challenge out to Charles. We can look at this in two ways. One is, let's say you could build the perfect ultimate HSM for cryptocurrency. Okay, even if you really could do that, and there's no way of attacking it, then the backup issue is still a big issue. It's not impossible to solve, but it's much more difficult in that environment. The requirement to supply those hardware devices reduces the ability for widespread use. We want to at certain times with this crisis enable people all over the world to get their hands and be able to handle a cryptocurrency immediately. That's much harder to need a hardware device. We want to enable economic freedom around the world, including countries where supply chain of physical hardware is going to be much harder. That's the second issue. So there's backup and there's that issue. And the third, there are many environments where it's just not relevant even, because we need fast SLA and speed in a cryptocurrency exchange. We also need to be able to move quickly and add assets quickly. And with hardware, that's all very, very difficult. And then the last thing is all of that was under the assumption that you could even build this perfect security device. I think we all agree that that just isn't the reality. Software you can fix, and I'm not going to say that you're more vulnerable to making a mistake than I am. I would never say that. But software can be fixed much more quickly than can hardware, and you can roll out a fix. Whereas with hardware, once it's delivered, that's much more challenging. So I thought I'd throw that challenge out to you.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Antagonizing like HSM and MPC does not really make sense. It could be like antagonizing mathematics and computers. This is completely different things. MPC defines cryptographic protocols, while HSM is more like the golden technology for securing keys and their use. And I think also that this antagonization comes from like some marketing around MPC, where some narrative happened around the idea that TSS removes the problem of securing keys. it's not the case. You still have keys, and you have to secure them. I've even heard some narratives around like keyless technology. Frankly, I think it's a bit harmful for your industry and for the industry in general. My perspective is like digital asset security is an unprecedented security problem. Your private key can secure billions, and transaction cannot be reverted. So for me, as the CTO of the leading digital asset security company, I have a big responsibility. When you're securing billions, one mistake could represent a risk for the whole ecosystems. So when it comes to MPC, my thinking is around two questions. The first one is, does threshold signature scheme prevent participants from being implemented in a secure hardware and secure environment? Well, the short answer is no. When we will implement TSS at Ledger, probably it will come in the future, we won't implement it in a regular vulnerable environment such as a Docker container or a mobile phone. This is simply a bad idea. These are not designed for security, and they are trivially broken. You can have a look to the Dungeon research. They are very good at extracting keys from such devices. And from my perspective, the addition of several non-secure implementation doesn't magically make a secure implementation. This would be like my first question. And the second one, I ask myself like every day, not every day, but quite often, is the following. Are current threshold signature scheme ready for solving the security challenges given by cryptocurrency management? And my short answer is no. No, it's not ready. This is my point of view. It will probably change in the future, but I think for now, it's not ready. Every cryptographer will agree with the following statement. Cryptography must pass the test of time. The first TSS paper compatible with real-world problems dates from, I think, 2017. And this is probably you that has been written this article. This research, just what I want to say is this research is very nascent, but in only 4 years, a lot of papers have been written and a lot of implementation have emerged, which is good news. Like the research is progressing. But at the same time, very few security analyses have been done. There are very few people in the world capable of deeply understanding these protocols. And maybe half of them are in this room. Omer was supposed to come, is not there, unfortunately. But yeah, very few analyses have been conducted, but some of them have been conducted by Omer Shlomovitz, for instance, Omasson also, and Chimakonov. And they succeed to completely break several TSS implementation. So what I want to say is TSS and MPC in general is a great field of research, but my responsibility is to assess the risk and to have a look and to assess if it's sufficiently ready to go in production and to secure this big amount of asset. And from a more personal stance, I think like ECDSA is not well suited for TSS. And I think you will agree with that. Current schemes, from my perspective, they are a bit hacky, plenty of drawbacks, and there are a lot of assumptions in the articles and which are sometimes not implemented. I have high expectation on BLS and Schnorr based TSS, and because they will be really easier to have strong security properties, and they will appear in Ethereum and Bitcoin very soon. So I have very strong expectation on that. So just to summarize my position, so sorry I was a little bit long. I think in the future, like TSS, threshold signature scheme, will play an important role. I'm pretty sure of that. I predict they should and they have to be implemented in secure enclave, like HSM or secure element, like something dedicated to implement security. This is for me very important. But as of now, personally, I wouldn't sleep at night knowing that almost 20% of the whole market cap held by our users is secured by technology which didn't pass the test of time yet. That would be my stance in a couple of minutes.
So it's great because we found a very, very strong point of disagreement here that we can focus on. So number one, I would like to say that MPC is not a new technology. MPC has been studied since the mid to late 1980s. It's built on very strong scientific foundations. It's not like a new block cipher. We can write very formal proofs of security for protocols. It doesn't mean that all MPC is good. And there is a bad habit, let me say, of researchers over-optimizing protocols to try to reduce it from 3 rounds to 2 rounds, and then introducing weird assumptions and other things. Yep. There are also people who just do shoddy implementations. They don't have the expertise. But it's like if I was to build an HSM and basically take an Intel computer and put a wooden case around it and write HSM on the side, that would not be a reason for someone to come along and say that because, look, people have built really bad HSMs, this is bad technology. It's true that HSM requires very, very high expertise. And it's true that not that many people, but it's certainly more than 2. But there are also, I would argue, there are not that many people who know how to make to do good hardware security. Look at what happened to Intel with SGX. They have a lot of expertise, but they really failed significantly there. So I don't think it's different yeah, there are fundamental reasons why. I know.
Yeah, it's different for Intel. Let's not go into this debate, but yeah, it's different for Intel.
I understand, but even then, I think doing good hardware security is also very, very non-trivial. In general, doing good security is very non-trivial. So I wouldn't take that as a reason. So I don't think it's new, not at all. There's very strong foundations. 2017 is an important paper, but it's not the first. There were papers earlier on, especially around things like Schnorr. We know how to do this well, and we can have independent review. ECDSA is possible. You just need to do it well, and you can. But again, being very careful and making sure that if you are deploying an MPC solution, make sure that it's actually built by people with very high expertise. And finally, you said one thing is that the suddenly spreading multiple insecure environments doesn't make it secure. So I'll disagree, and I'll give you an exact example. SGX sucks in my mind. All secure enclaves pretty much suck in my mind, but because of the side channels that you can do. But what happens if I would tell you that I'm going to deploy an MPC protocol running between Azure inside AMD Gen 3, in AWS Nitro, in GCP, maybe inside I don't know what, in IBM running on the secure enclave of the IBM mainframe running Linux 1, and on a mobile phone. And you would need to corrupt all of those in order to extract anything. You would need to run a simultaneous side channel attack on all of those on an MPC protocol. Inside your exchange of organization, you have separation of powers in terms of who can even access those different environments. If you were to put $1 billion inside AWS Nitro, I would pull my hair out. That is not a secure environment. But putting that separation over those many different environments, I think, gives you an extremely strong solution that still has the high flexibility you want from software. And gives you really, at least in my opinion, a very high level of security. But again, coming back to the fact that we don't disagree that much, I would love to see Ledger build an MPC node, and that could certainly be one of the elements that participates. And I would love for it to show on the screen before you participate in this MPC protocol. This is a transaction. Do you approve it? That would, by all means, be the best of all worlds.
Okay, so very quickly, and I give you the speech, David, just to answer to Yehuda about the last point. For the different disagreement, they are small, we agree, but yeah, there are a couple of disagreements. I strongly believe that we will have a TSS implementation within Ledger product at some point. As of today, you can already do a multi-signature, which are arbitrated by the blockchain, which is also an interesting governance layer. Like you can do a multi-sig with Bitcoin, you can do a multi-sig with Ethereum, with plenty of chain. It's not at the cryptographic level, it's not a TSS as a per se, but this is a multi-signature governed by the blockchain, and it also gives a good level of security with governance. This is something already possible. And to answer to your question, frankly, I'm still very cautious with ECDS-based threshold signature scheme, and I'm more confident with Schnorr and BLS, and which are definitely more suitable for this kind of governance. Okay, on this we agree.
Yeah. Okay. Time is running. Do you have any comments on these topics, David?
Sure, of course. So I just wanted to say and agree with everyone is that it's actually not that antagonistic, and actual the problem is more intertwined. So going to use HSMs in future, and as Yehuda mentioned, we actually have plans to effectively spread it out to different T4 data centers using a very different platforms, and we're looking forward to creating a defense app on the ledgers to effectively enable that, right? And as far as I know, even the Trezor has an MPC product, which is actually a hardware product. Don't quote me on that, but I saw something in their shop. I would not use that, to be honest, but I mean, if you want to, that is something to do, to test and tell me. My last item is effectively that I think it's just important to understand the difference between whether we're talking about HSM as a professional grade device, which is effectively a device which a bank or a large institution would buy, and then they have time to maintain that, keep it up to date, and everything else. And if we're talking about personal HSM devices, that then it's essentially up to end customers to manage them. And then we have those end customers being, again, they can be a corporation and they can be people. And I think, effectively speaking, what we want to do is to effectively provide a uniform access, whether you're a corporation or a human, and provide uniform risk mitigation to those agents. That's my point.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so time is running. Maybe we can take a last round of comments, a few minutes each. Maybe start with you, Charles.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe I can start with, so at Ledger, we have two main business lines, one which is more for consumer and where we sell this nano device, and another which is more for enterprise security. But in both cases, there is common things. Like I see several advantages with the technology we are using. So especially for hardware wallets, because I see three main advantages. Like the first one is empowerment. You are in control of your keys. Like blockchain revolution is about self-sovereignty and self-custody. And I'm very happy to bring power back to the user, and not your keys, not your coin. This was part of the previous panel. And with TSS, depending how it's implemented, you can lose a little bit this control. It depends who are the signer and so on. But with this kind of device, you are in full control. Also, there is standard. Hardware wallets implement standards, and especially I have in mind like key derivations such as BIP39. That means you can back up your keys independently, and you can recover your keys on any compatible wallets, which might be tricky with threshold signature scheme, because you would have to do some homomorphic encryption for. No, yeah, you would have to do the hash in a decentralized way in order to have to generate BIP39 backup. Maybe you will get me wrong. And finally, security. I think in our threat model, we think there is three different things in order to solve the security problem. The first one is security at rest. Where are your keys stored and in a secure enclave and so on? Where and security at use, where is your cryptography implemented and so on? What kind of secure enclave implements cryptography? And finally, something very important is secure display. As a user, whenever you are about to sign a transaction, to approve an interaction with a smart contract and so on, how can you be sure that the transaction you are about to sign is effectively the one you want to sign? And for this, trusted display is very important. This is something completely different from MPC. You can have MPC and trusted display. This is different things. But to have trusted display, you need some hardware at some point. Because if you don't have trusted display, that means that a simple malware on your mobile phone, if your TSS is implemented on mobile phone, could simply swap the address of your recipient to the attacker's address. And instead of sending Bitcoin to my colleague Yehuda, I would send Bitcoin to the attacker. And if you don't have trusted display, you cannot have this kind of security property, which are paramount in cryptocurrency custody.
I'll pass the word to you, Yehuda. I just want to say that we also have, I mean, in working with hierarchical wallets, I don't think BIP39 is the only way to go. There are also some challenges with that if, as you mentioned, you go to other signature schemes and whatnot. So, I mean, and I think for MPC, there's some other types of solutions that you can actually achieve the same business goals. But I agree that it's an important topic. But on that, I guess, do you have a final statement, Yehuda?
Yes, but first I want to start. Everybody heard Charles promise to send me a Bitcoin, so only one, but I'm waiting for it to come and to make sure it doesn't go into attacker. So, but I'll check after the presentation. So I want to try to relate to a number of things that were said. Some were very specific and some were general. Maybe I'll start with just a couple of specific. We can do BIP derivation in a hierarchical wallet. In MPC, MPC does have tools also for doing Boolean circuit computation. We have a product that provides that capability. It is more than efficient enough for use in practice. All of these problems, the issues of backup and so on and so forth, are much, much easier in my mind than in hardware. Yes, hardware is full control, but that also means for a lot of the world, full loss. Yes, there are many things that you can do, but if we want this to be a very broad technology that everybody and people who are not experts and who really don't know what they're doing when it comes to advanced technology, then I think that with MPC we have more flexibility to build solutions that are more suited for them. In terms of making it custodial, non-custodial, there are ways of doing all of that, and all of that can be solved with MPC. But I think in the end, maybe I'll try to take a step back a little bit. It's really, to some extent, about taste. And we know that with many things in security, right? Why do you choose one firewall over another or one approach to anomaly detection over another? There's taste, there is personal experience, and we differ around that. I have my biases because I've been studying MPC since the late 90s, and I don't trust hardware, and you have your biases because you've been working in hardware for a long time, and you don't trust newfangled science. And I think that's reasonable, but I think that it's important to understand that everything can be done very well and everything can also be done poorly. What's for sure is that if you're going to choose hardware, make sure you're buying it from someone who really understands hardware and is also building, yeah, I'm giving you a plug, don't worry, Charles, I'm giving you a plug, and is also building something which is specific to cryptocurrency, because buying a Thales HSM just doesn't solve this problem at all. It's just nothing to do with the problems that we're trying to solve here. And likewise with MPC, make sure that you're working with an MPC vendor who really understands, make sure that there's full transparency around the software that's being used, make sure that there's true expertise and there's external and independent review and so on and so forth. But overall, if you're looking at the needs of flexibility, the ability to trade off speed and security for different size wallets, the ability to reach a very broad global audience, the ability to remove a single point of failure, then only MPC gives you all of those properties. And yes, blockchain world is about decentralization, and it's more about decentralization than it's about holding my own keys. And the fact is that we could take a ledger and build an HSM ledger, and it could be a centralized machine, and that would hold the entire blockchain. And if we could truly trust one machine in the world we wouldn't need to build this much more complex blockchain because that could do everything for us. But there's a reason why this world did not go in that direction. And it's because it's about decentralization, and MPC fits that much, much better. But after having said all of that, I'll still throw it out to Charles that I would love for us to work together in the future to build out true MPC nodes in Ledger hardware. And that's nothing to do with Coinbase, by the way, because I'm not speaking in their name, just to make it very clear, that's as a technology vision.
Okay, thank you, Yehuda. And David, do you have a final short word?
Yeah, just a few words. So I'm essentially a big believer of the right tool doing the right job. So obviously not your keys and not your funds is an important notion, but we also have to understand that majority of the companies don't want to keep the cash in the safe in their offices. They want to keep it in a bank. And crypto did not even reach 10% of its actual market value. And most people prefer and would prioritize managing their assets in the safe, secure, and risk mitigated way rather than actually having full control. And if we want to keep this world decentralized, we essentially have to provide the solutions. And we believe that MPC is the right compromise effectively to provide the decentralized and the secure ownership of an assets which actually can be traced to an individuals.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Charles, Yehuda, everybody for your contributions today, and thank you to the audience. And I'll give the word back to you, Frank.